just making sure that we don't have any issues with the ruler. Sometimes with these wooden rulers we have to run our fingers along them just to make sure that there are not any splintering. We do have the nice Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. Oh, please forgive me. I was a little bit caught up in our last order. Let me just get that finalized. All right. My apologies. Welcome to R&R Collectibles. How can I help you this evening? Oh, are you the one that just called about the posters? Perfect. I do have your order. I just brought it out of the warehouse. We have it set up here and all ready to go. So are you ready to take it with you? Or okay, so you actually do have a few additional posters that you'd like to drop off. Excellent. Just a bit of a give and take. Perfect. Well, let's go ahead and get your new posters sized and talked about what you need in terms of frames or poster board, whatever you would like. How does that sound? All right, well, let me just go ahead and make a little bit of a note. That way, when we send it back, we have exactly what you need. So allow me just a few moments to find the proper page. There we are, and new page. So, how many posters are you bringing with you this evening? Okay, 2 posters. A bit smaller of the order, or of an order than your previous 4 posters, but definitely enough to really change the way a room looks or really spruce up a wall. So, an excellent, excellent number. All right, posters tend to go a bit better in pairs, of course. So 2 posters. And are you looking for framework or just matting, things like that? Sure, we have gloss, semi-gloss, matte, all different types of covering and protective film we can add. We can also just have them just embossed into a static screen, things like that. Okay, so your standard frames, perfect. And would you like a bit of shadowing around the edge or a snug fit frame? Okay, so similar to your previous orders, a bit of shadowing, excellent. So we do have framework, shadowing on the edge. All right, standard black or, okay, so standard black, excellent. Standard black. It should match perfectly with your 4 previous orders. All right, so we have 2 posters, frame, shadowed edging on those frames. We have standard black. Anything else? Would you like a protective screen on top of that glass to prevent cuts or scrapes or anything like that? No, just the glass, perfect. So standard glass. All right, so we do have our standard framing rate. It will apply. It will be $20 per frame, of course, on top of the the cost of the frame itself, which the standard black are $9.99 per frame. All right, and of course, with tax and things like that, we'll get on your official receipt up front at the desk. So just a few notes here. All right, I think that's all we need. Perfect. So let's take a look at those posters, shall we? First one, please. Excellent. Thank you very much. So I can see a similar dimensional size to your previous order, but it does, just from my expertise and just eyeing it, it looks to be just a bit smaller. So we'll have to adjust for that in the framing, but of course we'll go through our measurements and everything like that, so not a problem. Let's go ahead and take a look at what you have. So we do have Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz for the Nintendo Wii, it looks like. Excellent. the Nintendo Wii has, in recent days, really taken off as a vintage console. It's something that people have really looked back on and started to try to find their old collections or their stored boxes in the attic, if you will. So I would expect to see a rather large spike in the prices of all Wii accessories, games, things like that. So not surprised to have a poster from the Wii era come across our desk. Quite a bit of a departure from your previous order, but I can get the sense that you do have a bit of well-rounded taste. So I'm just going to give a brief examination and make sure that we make notes of any blemishes or defects in the poster. That way we know that anything that shows up after the framework was not caused by us. You understand? So I can see that you have previously used pins to tack this up on a wall. So I'm glad that you've decided to go ahead and get a professional frame. Well, it looks to be in fairly good condition, so let's go ahead and prepare our note-taking ability and get a few measurements. All right. So we're just going to use a simple ruler here. I can assure you this won't cause any damage to your poster. It's just a standard wooden ruler. We do have a metallic edge there that's really just used for cutting and things like that, which of course we won't be doing to your poster this evening. So what I will do is I will get the length and width measurements of your poster. That way we can really match it to that perfect fit of a frame. Like you said, with the shadowing on that frame, it won't actually extend to the frame itself. There will be a black shadow around the edge of the frame that will take up the rest of the space. It's a common practice for posters of these odd dimensions that oftentimes Nintendo Power Magazine posters were, of course, created with. Alright, just making sure that we don't have any issues with the ruler. Sometimes with these wooden rulers we have to run our fingers along them just to make sure that there are not any splintering or snag areas that can cause damage to that poster. But this one seems to be up to the task. Alright, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get a measurement. So if you can just bear with me, I'm just going to make a few notes here. Alright, and 3/4. Just make yourself comfortable if possible. I'm just going to make sure that there aren't any discrepancies. Sometimes with wear and tear over the many years that you've owned the poster, there can be slight warping or things like that. So just best to make sure. Perfect. And now the length. Alright, so we do have there and excellent, alright. And the other side, just getting a solid measurement there. Perfect. You have a standard dimension poster, so this will look great in one of our frames. So I'll go ahead and measure both posters and then get the type of frame that you're going to be using and give you a bit of a preview. Alright, so I'm just going to set this aside. Yes, we do also have a large variety of options and products that we use to restore any of the vintage type or even modern posters, magazines. So like you can see with these vintage Nintendo Power, of course this is the Legend of Zelda, Link to the Past issue. So these are great to be displayed. We have frames and different types of cases that can allow you to display these without wearing on the corners or edges. So these are actually two Nintendo Power magazines. This one is Star Tropics, a great game. These have been brought in recently and are just awaiting their permanent display feature, if you will. All right. I really do enjoy the Nintendo Power magazines myself. Oh, you do have a couple. Well, you'll have to bring them in sometime if you'd like them preserved for long-term use. Of course, I look forward to it. Your second poster, a classic. You can tell immediately what game this is just from looking at that image right there. Now, if I am not mistaken, the magazine in which this poster came from has actually really skyrocketed in price and can be very expensive online. So if you have this poster, I do hope that you kept the magazine because it's quite valuable at this point. So you do have the magazine. Well, I'd love to see it someday if you bring it in, even if you just like to show it off. That would be a real treat. So a really nice poster. Let's go ahead and get that unfolded. So you do have a dual-sided poster. Maybe we'll save the other side for a surprise. So as you can see, we do have the nice Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, which you can see there on the bottom, Nintendo Power issue. What a great poster. And this game really just changed everything for the Zelda franchise. Much darker and a much more, I would say, realistic or adult take, and has become really a fan favorite. It, I want to say, went through its ups and downs in terms of what people thought of it, but now has really cemented itself as a favorite. Let's see that other side. The 2006 anniversary, 15th anniversary, that is, Sonic poster. What a great second option for posters there, as you can see. We have a really nice Sonic poster. So, which poster would you care to have framed this evening? The Twilight Princess, that's an excellent choice. Well, alright, well, it does look to be in great shape. So we'll just flatten it out just a bit. It's really unfortunate that these creases just maintain their form really forever. Sometimes with our frames, after long periods of being framed, they can become less noticeable, but it's unfortunate that they do originate from magazines, even as enjoyable of a process of opening a magazine and seeing what your poster was back in the day. It still makes it sometimes difficult to maintain their integrity. So let's go ahead, and the measurements should be similar. But once again, just not leaving any stone unturned. Alright, second measurement of width, perfect. 10 3/4, that's excellent. And beautiful, 10 3/4. It's just part of the job that I really enjoy. It's just seeing so many of these vintage posters. It's something that really makes it easy to come to work every day. Right. And excellent dimensions. You've done a great job maintaining the integrity of these posters throughout the years, even though they were not in frames. So, very nicely done. Alright, so let's go ahead and show you what... Here we go. That is the frame in which we will be going with for your posters. Very identical to the 4 frames in which you've previously ordered, which brings me to the last step in our evening. I'll just set your posters here to the side. Let's get to those 4 previously ordered posters. Of course, you prepaid, so you can just take these with you. And here we are. So I've taken the liberty of setting all of your 4 posters that you've previously ordered here on the table. And if you don't mind and you have the time, I would like to take you through each of the 4 posters so that we can inspect the quality, make sure that it's up to the specifics in which you ordered, and just take a look at really nice posters and make sure that they fit the color scheme and idea of what you wanted when you placed the order. Does that sound all right? Perfect. All right, well, let's go ahead and take a look at the first poster here. As you can see, this is a beautiful, beautiful choice here. Note that black framing and that black shadowing around the border of the poster with that dark aesthetic of the Super Spy Hunter poster. Great choice, by the way. A really fun game, and I think judging by the other posters here in your order, this color scheme almost flows together with all 4 of the posters, so I think it was a really good choice, and I think it's going to look really good with whatever setting that you have dreamt up when purchasing these posters or the framing of the posters. So notice, like I said, this gentle, dark shadowing here allows the odd dimensions of these Nintendo Power. And as you can see, it does have the vintage Nintendo Power logo there, but it allows the odd dimensions to be framed just perfectly, and I actually think it makes it look just a bit better with that shadowing. So, does this poster live up to the hopes and what you would like it to have looked like when you placed the order? Excellent. Well, I'll set that to the side and let's take a look at the second one. And here we are. Next we have, this is a classic Super Metroid. It says coming soon for your Game Boy Advance. This is an absolutely, or Game Boy, my apologies, good catch. This is an absolute classic poster. And similar to the Spy Hunter, Super Spy Hunter, you can see the nice combinations of red, oranges, and the dark blues. It's going to look really good. I'm assuming that you're planning on hanging these posters in similar areas or at least the same room. I thought so. I could tell with the color scheme that you went for with the 4 posters that you selected. Judging by the Wii posters that you've brought in, I can assume that you have many posters at home, and these 4 were simply just a collection that you had a specific room or decor idea in mind. Am I correct? Perfect. I thought so. Well, this poster is, I think, going to look perfect for that, whether you're hanging it in a den, a game room, living room, or really just any part of a home or apartment, things like that. I think that the look and overall feel that you've went for is going to be really nice. And may I suggest that the dark aesthetic of the posters might look perfect with a darker themed wall, maybe a dark blue or a darker gray, something like that. I think it would look really nice. All right. Well, does this poster seem to match the look that you were going for? You can take your time and look it over. Sure. Yes, it does have that vintage Nintendo Power logo. All right. Looks good. Perfect. I will just set it to the side here. And we will take a look at your third poster. What do you think? Yes. This, I think, is my favorite of the bunch. This is the SimCity, the original, as you can see there at the top, the SimCity logo. And you have the iconic Godzilla, or in this iteration of the game, almost more like just a standard dinosaur. So this is a really nice looking poster, and with that neutral gray and white kind of color scheme, and you do have some reds there with the helicopter. The color scheme, of course, will match your other posters quite nicely, and once again will look great with a dark colored wall, or at least a neutral setting. So, how does this poster look? Excellent, I'm glad to hear it. We do take pride in all of our framework here, and I'm happy to hear that it comes through in the final product. Now this, if I had to pick a close second for posters that I really enjoy, this would be the one. I am a rather large fan of the Batman animated series, and this, of course, is an ad from an original 90s style Nintendo Power magazine, stating that it's soon, or coming soon, to your Game Boy, the Batman animated series cartoon in game form. So this, once again, the dark aesthetic is just a perfect selection. What do you think? Yes, I think that the red tones and yellows will, and of course the blues, will look perfect set alongside the Metroid poster. Might I suggest the Metroid poster on the end, if you're going to hang these in a just linear fashion, the Metroid poster on the end, followed by the SimCity poster for a bit of neutrality and color, then the Batman poster to kind of pull from that red from the Metroid poster on the end, and then the Super Spy Hunter on the end there. So we have two red posters, or red toned posters on each end, capping your linear formation and form, if you will. Then we have some more variety of colors in the middle. That's just a suggestion, but I think would look really nice. So if you don't have any objections to the posters that we've showed you, I will go ahead and get these packaged up for you, and you can take them with you on your way. You can get actually just a bit better look here at some of the backing that I mentioned before. Notice the clasp here. You just rotate these and they slide directly under the groove, which holds a nice firm and snug compression of your poster. And like I said, over time, sometimes that can actually lend itself to flattening out that poster just a bit. So the cardboard, as you can hear, is a really nice, solid product that will hold up. And even if you were to unfortunately drop and possibly do damage to your frame, the plexiglass and the cardboard is quite strong, so it will limit some of your cost for replacing it. Alright, perfect. Let me go ahead and get that set back down. Well, if there are no other further questions, I can go ahead and get these packaged up. We can get them sent with you on your way. Of course, you've prepaid and are simply picking up, so I'm happy to hear that you are thrilled with our framework here. Once again, please bring in some more of your posters if you have. I would love to see, and some of your magazines. I'd love to see some of your vintage magazines like this one here, or some of your others that you might have. All right? Well, thank you so much for coming into R&R Collectibles this evening. Please enjoy your posters and have a wonderful evening. Now let's get these packaged up for you.